Welcome to Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Joyous conversations about what the afterlife evidence and modern science combine to tell us is true about our one reality. You have nothing to fear. You are eternal and you are perfectly loved. Knowing the truth changes everything. Now, here's Roberta.
My dear friends, welcome to Seek Reality. I'm Roberta Grimes, and I'm delighted that you're with us today. Now, as you know, if you've been with us for a while, the core fact of all our lives is a certainty that what we experience in a very limited way as human consciousness is actually the base creative force that continuously manifests this universe. All our minds are part of that one infinitely creative mind, capital M, and therefore such phenomena as mental telepathy are easy to explain. We're all part of the same mind. What's more, the minds of all the people we used to think were dead also are part of that one mind. And just as some who are gifted at mental telepathy can communicate at a distance, they can do remote viewing, they can do all kinds of phenomena with their minds. Well, some people have the gift of being able to communicate very well mentally with those that we used to think were dead. Now, as you may know, I've been skeptical of mental mediums. I mean, think about it. They're mind reading with dead people. For a long time, I thought, I don't believe, not so much. Then about 20 years ago, I went through a period of testing, maybe a dozen mental mediums, and it just reinforced my skepticism. Because since I went in, of course, as a major skeptic, I can't believe this is real. I didn't get much in the way of results, and that was dumb of me. Much later, I've come to understand that there are some mental mediums who have truly extraordinary abilities. We've had some of them as guests as on Seek Reality before, and our guest today is another wonderful mental medium. Carolyn Molnar is a Canadian. She has more than 30 years of experience in this field, and she tells me her list of clients is, worldwide. It's easy because, of course, there's no distance where the dead are. So wherever you are, she works with people in China. Wherever you are, you can talk to her by phone, and your loved ones are both with you and with her. And that is, to me, an amazing thing, but it's true. It actually tends to work better by phone than even it does in person. Carolyn teaches classes on mediumship and psychic development, and she's led workshops across Canada and at Lilydale in New York, which is a wonderful place. We'll talk about that. Carolyn is highlighted in some of the books Psychics and Mediums in Canada, and also Medium 7, which is evidence of the afterlife and predictions. She's been profiled in national Canadian newspapers. She's big in Canada, as you could see, like the Toronto Star, the National Post, and the Globe and Mail. And this is, I think, fun. She wrote, produced, and directed a one-woman play called What? You're a Medium? At the 2016 Toronto Fringe Theatre Festival. Boy, she's a woman of many gifts. Carolyn has released guided meditation CDs. She's written 2 books, and one of them is called Compassionate Messenger, True Stories from a Psychic Medium. I've just read that book, and we'll be talking about it today. Carolyn, welcome. I'm so glad you're with us.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
We have a lot of fun on Seek Reality. We're never sure where it's going to go, but wherever it goes, it's a fun trip. And we'd like to start by getting to know you a little bit. Tell us a little about your history. How did you first come to understand you had gifts like this? And tell us about that.
I've always had it. I was born with it. I used to be able to predict things when I was 4 and 5 years old. My mother would say, Carolyn, what do you get on this? And I would tell her, and she'd go, oh, that can't be possible. And I said, Mom, don't ask if you don't want to know. I mean, I was so certain.
Yes.
But if I can fast forward it to age 20, I had a very negative experience with a reader. And it just frightened me so much that I turned to my father. And I said, I don't know why I'm calling you Dad, but I just need help. And he said, I'll take you to my medium. And I went, what? Your medium?
You didn't know you had a medium? Right.
So I met her. Her name was Sadie Nickerson. She passed in 2001. I'm doing my work in dedication to her work. But she took my hands, looked into my eyes, and said, let's start again. And I burst into tears. So wow. It's because of the negativity. I will never, ever, ever do that to my clients. I mean, it put me off, and I would just never do it to anybody else,
I remember that in your book. This woman gave you all these negative predictions.
Yes, yes.
Did they come true?
No, they didn't.
Oh, Lord.
Now, I will have to preface it by saying she was very, very good with the police work that she did. But I really do believe it affected her way.
Yes.
It's a very negative thing because you actually become the victim to get the information. And I just affected her. Poor thing. So, that's how
but what a terrible way to start. I mean, and that's really a bit of a warning to people that if you want to go to a medium or a psychic or a tarot reader or whatever it is, always get some references and find out how people have felt about what was said during those readings, because there are some people who, with the best of intentions, will tell you terrible things. And as you just said, Carolyn, they don't come to pass, but they sure do mess up your life.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And so many sitters give their power away to a psychic, and I tell them, you take your power back. You are in control. Be very, very careful. And I agree with you, Roberta. I think it's very, very important to get some kind of recommendation. Word of mouth is the way to go, for sure.
Yes, I agree with you. Mm-hmm. So you've always had it, and you had like grandparents or something, didn't you? That
Yes, I did. Both sides, Roberta. I mean, I really come by it honestly.
That's an interesting thing. Yeah. And let's just mention that to people. If you have people in your family who have psychic gifts, you may be surprised to find it does run in families. Okay, talk about these people who had it too in your life.
Well, my grandparents, my grandfather on my dad's side used to see a psychic weekly, which I do not recommend. No, I actually fire clients. If they come too often, I'll say, no, I don't want to see you for another 6 months, because I just think that they need to take control of their life and not have it run by a psychic or a medium,
Yes.
But he was that. And my grandparents on my mom's side, they were entrepreneurs. They were hairdressers. And my grandmother's client was a medium. Her name is Jenny Wilder. She's long since passed. And she was a trumpet medium, and she was also the medium for our Prime Minister Mackenzie King. So my mother was not allowed to be in the dining room when she would come over, because they would have seances and the trumpet would be flying all over the room.
All right, explain trumpet medium. What is that? People would say, what, trumpet medium?
Yeah.
They almost drove off the road, so we have to explain what it is.
Well, I know in Lilydale you can talk to people about this too, but it's a collapsible tube that's large at one end, small at the other, usually made out of aluminum, and it gets charged with light energy so that the illuminated paint is glowing in the dark. These mediums work in the dark, and it's got to do with their ectoplasm. It can be affected by light. So anyways, the spirit from working through the medium grabs a hold of these trumpets, and with Jenny, what her experience was is you could actually hear disembodied voices that you recognize coming through the end of the trumpet. Now, this is a very, very old-fashioned way of doing things. I don't know of any medium that actually does it this way. I've seen Stuart Alexander. He's from England. He's a physical medium. I'm not that. I'm not a physical medium. But
that's the difference, everyone. Physical mediums are the ones that work in the dark, go into trance, produce ectoplasm. We have our wonderful friend, Dr. R. Craig Hogan, has been for more than a decade developing some physical mediums literally in his home, and it's working amazingly well. But you're right, it's a totally lost art. Now, nearly all mediums are mental mediums, and that can also work very well, just not maybe as fancy as the ones with the trumpets.
Well, you know what, Roberta? The reason why it's evolved into mental mediumship is there was a lot of fraudulent acts with the working in the dark.
Yes, that's it.
People would be using levers and pulleys to make things move. So Spirit got wise to it and said, okay, let's do it a different way. We'll use mental mediumship, which is using all five senses, sight, hearing, sensing, smelling, and what's the other one? The fifth one, I'm at a loss. Oh, tasting. So they impress the medium that way, and so it can be done during the day in the light, and there's no fraudulence. No fraudulent behavior.
Which is possible, right? That's right. I mean, this is what we're used to now. We are all used to the notion that mental mediums are talking mentally with our dead loved ones, and the wonder is that it works as well as it does. I've had some extraordinary readings with very good mediums.
Wonderful.
But now it comes really your guidance and help. And one of the things about your book that's great is you really bring them in. You have guides who basically are your maitre d's or whatever, master of ceremonies. When you're doing this work, talk about your guides a little bit. What do you know of them?
Very little, honestly. And I remember my mentor saying that your journey will be a journey of trust and faith. And to have the faith of a child, it sounds extraordinarily easy, but it isn't. So my guides change a lot just because of the road I decided to take. Doesn't make me any more special, just puts more demands on them. So
they change often. You don't have like one buddy who's like your major guy. It's a group. Fascinating. Okay.
And they are here according to what I am learning or how my work is moving along. So, they have millennia of experience and certain things they know very, very well. So they are here to help. They are not our guardians, which are our loved ones that we know.
Yes.
These guys are assigned to us according to where we are in our life plan. Mm-hmm. So you're a medium out in the world. Yeah. Are you picking up things all the time? You walk into a restaurant and you're picking up things about people in the restaurant, or can you turn it off? I turn it off for a very good reason. I was actually hospitalized in 2004 because I had overdone it. I just my central nervous system, and so it was a huge learning for me. I do not go on unless I'm working. And that's because I want to be like my mentor. I want to be able to do this till the ends of my days, and I have to conserve energy. It's basically that's the reason. So no, I'm not on all the time. And I really think that that's like psychic assault. You're picking up information that's none of your business. You know what I'm saying?
But how do you turn it off? Because people are curious to know how this really works inside your mind. Do you just say to your guides, I'm off duty tonight and go in the restaurant?
Well, because I've been doing this for so long, Roberta, it's an automatic thing. But if something starts trickling in, I'll just say, no, not now, not appropriate. And if you want me to read for them, have them give me a shout. It's like I'm not doing this.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But it's very, very rare that would happen to me anymore. Yeah.
How does it feel to be a medium? I mean, of course, you wouldn't know how it feels to be like us. So, but are you more alert in general to what's around you, and not just human, messages, but are you communicating with birds, with plants, with the environment more? Do you think than most of us are?
Very aware. I'm very aware that even inert objects have energy. If you take it down to the molecular level, there's energy, like the atoms and stuff like that. So I'm very aware of that. I remember I was in a borough in England and I wanted to take a stone home. And there was a friend who had divining rods. And I said, would you please, let's ask to see if we're allowed to take any stones out of the borough. And the answer was no.
Oh,
and
my.
And then I said, well, can we take one outside of the borough? And it swung out. Absolutely, yes. So, it's fascinating. These divining rods are just so magical. So, I just believe everything has a conscience or a energy or whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's interesting to me is that when I first understood that everything is composed of consciousness energy, that was when I first thought, maybe rocks or, maybe all these inert objects, maybe a car. But it starts to boggle your mind when you think all of this stuff is on some level alive and or conscious. However, there are I remember reading once about a long time ago when I was reading evidence. Someone said that there is a planet in the solar system, universe, much bigger than the solar system, planet in the universe, where the life is silica-based. So if we want to incarnate there, it feels normal to us when we're there, but if someone else comes who has a carbon-based body, not a silicate-based body, we seem not to move at all because we're moving very slow. What do you say? Yeah, are you telling me you think that's true?
Well, you know what? I've also heard that there are atmospheres that are chlorine-based. So there was no way we could live there. Absolutely no way. Not in this body.
And so we did have a different body. Well, yeah. I had a wonderful – this fellow is going to win the Nobel Prize for his consciousness theory of everything. His name is Bernardo Kastrup. And when I had him on, actually, we haven't yet aired his interview, so everybody watch for that one. When I had Bernardo on, I told him this story. And he said, well, you know, what's interesting is silica is one of the very few kinds of minerals that actually could be alive. And he explained it then. I thought, oh my heavens, my mind is blown. Maybe that was true. Maybe there is a planet where the life is silica based.
Well, here's another story. I went to see somebody who's a remote viewer, very FBI, very straight-laced, you know, that kind of gentleman. And he was actually teaching remote viewing. And he was talking about a gentleman who was a scientist, and he was in his lab, and he was talking to a gun. And the guy was saying, "What are you doing?" And he says, "I'm asking permission to change the shape of the gun, and it will work so much easier if I ask permission." Isn't that something, even from a scientist?
That is boggling.
Yeah. Oh, I want to mention something, too. You were talking about the universe and how we're all connected.
Yes.
I want to throw this one out to you, Roberta.
Oh, dear, what?
Oh, I think you'll find it fascinating. So I was told by Spirit that each and every one of our experiences in the planet, on the planet, in the universe, in the universes, goes back to Source as experience. So our experience is continually feeding Source. And so as we're perfecting, Source is perfecting even further. Isn't that amazing?
Yes. Yeah. But you could see the cycle to a certain extent when you study the afterlife, as I have fairly intensively over decades, because we gradually evolve in what we think of as the afterlife and eventually join what we call the seventh level, which is Source.
That's right.
We are eventually we're going to be there too.
We're earning our way.
There's no time, therefore, essentially, we're there now.
We're earning our way there, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we come in with such limited minds, trying to understand this from here, it makes your eyes cross. It really does. We're going to get it all. They tell us repeatedly, we will understand it all once we get there in our back in our vast eternal minds. But here, we're sort of, you know, in a limited, it's like ants compared to what we're going to feel like when we're there. But anyway, you and I could just probably brainstorm for days, but I need to ask you some questions because people are going to be curious about that. You teach and mentor people in mediumship. Is this a big thing you do, or is it just occasionally?
I will say this. I have a mediumship group that has become my family. They've been students for years, and they're incredibly gifted because they've just stuck with it. Everybody can be a medium if they want to. So I do teach them. I don't have another mediumship class at the moment, but I do have 2 psychic development classes, and I believe that people should work with their guides and angels with psychic development first before they go in with the mediumship.
Yes, probably that's really true.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they are more protected and loved with their guides than they are sometimes with the spirit people. So that's how I teach, is psychic development first, mediumship second. Yeah.
That's great. And can it be just anybody? I really want to do this with you, Carolyn, or is it more people who have some gifts that you've tested and you think that they really can develop?
My sense is this, is if they come to me, they've passed the muster. You know, they've done their work. Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah. I accept everybody, and it's very rare that I have a student that I just feel is not working well with this.
Fascinating.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm encouraged to think. I think I'm as psychic as opposed to, and then it turns out I'm channeling. So, you don't know everyone. We don't. We think whatever happens in our lives is normal, and we don't realize that all of us have gifts. It's just our gifts are different. Each of us has a different set of gifts, and to me, that's a wonderful thought.
With gifts as well, is because it's so natural, we don't see, and easy, we don't see it as a gift.
That's right. Yeah. If I could do it, anybody could do it. Oh, my goodness, that's me. I really feel that way. Mm-hmm. But it turns out not to be true. So that's wonderful. So we're going to get, her website is easy. It's CarolynMolnar.com. CarolynMolnar.com, right, Carolyn?
That's it, yes.
And so you can go there and just find out whatever she's able to do to help you. I think I'm going to ask for a reading with you, actually, dear, because after having read your book, I think I'd like to see what you have to say. Now, the book that you wrote, which as you can imagine, I read a lot of books in this field just because I interview their authors. And I love the ones that are happy, sprightly, sort of, I want to turn the page because this is easy and fun prose. This is what most people now want. They don't want to wade through anything heavy. And your book is delightful because it is so bright and so full of sort of interesting things. And it's not too long. I mean, a lot of people put filler in there. You haven't done that either. I just think your book is a delight. Well, it's called Compassionate Messenger, and it has a great foreword by Stuart Alexander. Now, I didn't know who he is because he's still active, right? He must be quite old.
He's not that old. I think he's like in his 60s, but he has gone private. He's still sitting with his group, and very few people can get to see him anymore. How can I? But he is a phenomenal medium, and so honest and so kind. And what's wonderful is I've been in talks with him because I'm going to be writing, I am in the midst of writing another book, and there is a chapter called The Ectoplasmic Hand that is going to be included. So we're working back and forth just to get this right for him and for me. So I haven't lost touch with him. He's as I say, a very gifted medium, and I feel so honored and privileged to see his work.
Well, I thought I knew the name, but I didn't know much about him, so I had to find out. And I connected with my friend Craig Hogan and said, "Oh, tell me about this guy." Oh, he raved. So if he thinks he's good, he must be wonderful. He's a physical medium, everyone, and he's a historian of spiritualism. Now, in the heyday of spiritualism in the UK, especially, there was a lot more of physical mediumship done. Now it's primarily mental mediumship there too. But he talked in his foreword about the decline in the quality of mental mediums over the last half century, which I didn't know that actually was something. I thought I was just a grump about it, but apparently that really has been the case. Talk about that. Why do you think that's happening?
I think we've gotten lazy, really.
Okay, well, that's true, yes.
And see, for me, it's all about evidence. I want to know if you have brown eyes and an earring in one ear, but I feel that the messages have gotten so general, and that's what I mean by being lazy. Your grandmother's here, and she's sending you love. Well, every grandmother pretty much does that. So
that's right.
Yeah.
So she liked to bake you cookies, right? Yeah. Of course.
Of course, mine didn't, but there you go.
She was too busy being a medium. No, I mean, she was running a store or whatever she was doing. But so you think it really is the case? How do we turn that around?
I think that the sitters or clients have to be discerning and stop going to people that give mediocre messages. Now, I will say this, not every message is the same for every client that I have. A lot of the clients have to watch what they bring to the table in the way of their attitude and their beliefs and their skepticism. Right. There's wrong with there's nothing wrong with healthy skepticism, but you need to be open to receive, right? Or else Spirit says, you know what, it's too much work. Forget it. I'm not doing this.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
You can go see someone else, So.
Yes. No, I've learned my lesson because I have had readings with a few very good mediums, but I know what you mean. There are some who give you such general information.
Mm-hmm.
A female could be a grandmother, a cousin, or, whatever, and she has dark hair and she loves you. Well, there's, I don't know who that is.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, there was someone who pointed to her eyebrow. She said, "Why is your mother pointing to her?" She knew it was my mother. She knew her name. "Why is she pointing to her eyebrow?" Well, that's evidential. Nobody could know that. That's the kind of thing which I think we all hope for. Is there a registry? I mean, I know of a couple, and I don't know if there's one that you think is really good, where people have been tested, or do you think that makes sense either? Because I've tried some that were on registries, and they really, really were not that different from some that were not.
I really don't know that. I'll tell you, I learned a big lesson from the Diana, Princess of Wales. I just don't read about myself. I just don't. Because, I could do... Is
that what Diana said? Really?
Oh, yeah. She used to read about herself in the newspaper and get so depressed. And I thought, I'm not doing this. No. Because it's somebody's opinion. It's not necessarily truth, right? So
that's right.
Yeah, I have not heard of a registry, although Donna Smith Moncrief's book, Medium 7, lists about 18 mediums that she actually interviewed and actually came and watched them work without letting them know. So it was sort of her way of figuring out who would make the book and who wouldn't. So that's a pretty good thing. I don't know. I think they're all Canadians, though. Sorry.
I have interviewed her. She's been on Seek Reality, and she's a wonderful person. Very scrupulous and very honest.
Very scientific.
She does. Yes, scientific. That was refreshing, actually, in this field.
Mm-hmm.
But I have the sense that we're becoming a more scientific, more developed field.
Mm-hmm.
There was a time when I would hear from people who were doing all kinds of strange things that they wanted me to interview them, and if I wasn't. I was being very careful about what the people I would interview, but I don't hear from those people. I think it's new age has become old age at this point. Yeah. People are not so interested in the weird things anymore, especially since a lot of them are just, who knows, imagination.
Well, yeah, and with this work, boy, you must have to love it to keep on with it. I mean,
yes, that's true.
I'm doing I'm putting together a documentary that's based on science and mediumship to prove what goes on with the body, and I'm really excited about it. It's in its infancy, and it will be hopefully moving along shortly. We're still gathering, it's a big project, but it's all about science for me. It's like proof. Let's have the proof.
Yes, that's exactly right. That's right. All right, well, tell us a little more about this documentary, Science and Mediumship.
Yeah.
So and what happens with the body when someone is a medium? Really? That's what you said?
Yeah, that's it. And remember when I was telling you I'm not on all the time, only when I have to be. It's because it can, for me, it does drain my energy. So I want to understand that. What is that? So, and apparently a lot of mediums have migraines. A lot of them are diabetic. Not all of them, but,
really?
There's a correlation. What is that about? I want to know.
What's interesting is that seems to be a problem. People who are physical mediums and go into trance or produce ectoplasm seem to, a lot of them, develop diabetes and other sort of diseases of stress that shorten their lives.
Yes, it's true. It pulls energy from different organs. I know I've been sitting in audiences and I'm doubled over. They somehow like the energy that I'm emitting and they just grab it. And I'm half asleep and I'm doubled over because it's just the medium, especially a physical medium, needs that energy to grow the ectoplasm, the voice, and all that stuff. And you know what? I give it generously because it is such a rare phenomenon that I want to be a part of. But I am not a physical medium. I am not. No. I will not give up my soul for that kind of thing. And you really do. You give up your spirit so that other spirits can work in your body. And I'm too much. I want more control than that.
For sure. Well, not everybody is called to do, as we know, a lot of things. I think that we each have guides. We each made plans before we came in, and we have guides who help us fulfill our plans. And clearly, this is what you had come in to do,
Yes.
and now you're doing it.
Yes.
One thing you said in your book, I'd just like to mention. You said my clients tend to be about 90% female.
Yeah.
There are very few men who work in my field. Why is that? Well, you say you've talked. I mean, your husband, by the way, seems like a neat guy too. He's a little jaundiced about what you do, but on the other hand, he seems to be open to it, which is a good thing.
Yes, yes, he is.
But you said you think the reason that it's primarily a female field is because mediumship is an art and not a science, and men need a physical kind of thing to believe in, and if it's not physical, it's hard for them to really grasp it.
Yeah.
But what do you mean to say when you say it's an art and not a science? We were just saying it was a science. So
No, I want to prove it by science.
yeah. Oh, okay. It's an art,
Yeah.
but we prove it. Okay, by science.
So
All
the
right.
art means, for me, it's like a creative part of the soul. It's the right brain function. Whereas our society is left brain, rules, regulations,
Right.
and the left brain wars with the right brain when we're doing this work because it wants to keep us safe. So we'll say, oh, this is dumb. You're making it up. This isn't logical. And I think that we have to kind of harness that left brain and say, you know what, you do have a function, and I know that you're not going to go away, but right now I want to do this. And there's going to be that constant thing until you're ready to just accept this creativity.
Okay. But are men more skeptical by nature, or are they more shy about these things?
They're more
Are they-
logical. They're more logical to my mind.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Not all of them, but most of them. And it takes a creative brain to do this work. Yeah.
What's interesting is that the people that I know who are working in this or related fields, the men I know are very often gay. They very often are more female in their own orientation, which kind of reinforces what you just said.
Yes. I didn't want to say it, but I'm glad you did. Yes, I've seen that.
I mean, I think you get to the point where you know enough wonderful, wonderful gay men, and you come to understand that this is their choice. This is how they're wired.
Yes.
And if they're wired more like women, then clearly they would probably be interested in things that are more like women. And where I was going with that is that one of the wonderful people I know in this field is Peter Wright, and he keeps insisting that your imagination is how you actually connect with spirit.
Yes,
and
I
he's
agree.
proven it over and over again. So talk about that.
Well, active imagination, it's, when you get pictures in your head, that's clairvoyance. We just don't connect it to something psychic.
Right.
But we are naturally clairvoyant, most of us. Yeah. So, and that to me is active imagination. But I pay attention to that because that has a lot to do with the work that I'm doing, for sure. Mm-hmm.
One of the things I wanted to make sure we just mentioned is Lilydale, which you love. Now, tell people about Lilydale.
It's a magical place. It's the largest spiritualist community in the world. It's located half an hour west of Buffalo, New York, and it opens its doors to the public. I believe it's the last part of June till Labor Day weekend, and in that time, the mediums and visiting mediums provide workshops. They've got a workshop book that you can get on lilydaleassembly.com. It won't be ready probably till February or March next year for 2020. And they have a healing temple where they have 2 services a day where you can get spiritualist healing. They have the Stump and the Forest Temple services where you'll hear mediums work 3 times a day. They have restaurants and a hotel on and off the grounds. They've got a library that has incredible works and information, a post office, a firehouse. It's a little community. And as I say, it opens its doors in the summer to those who are seeking information.
I have friends who have been there. It's on my list. I just never seem to have the time to go. But I would love to experience it. This is like a place that time forgot in a way. It's more than 100 years old, right? That this has been continuing as a spiritualist community, and some amazing things have happened there. Most people have no idea. It's the website is lilydaleassembly.com. I'll put these in the information too, folks, so that you can look it up. But I recommend everybody who is a seeker should go there. I know one person, Sandra Champlain, who was one of our dear friends, and she decided she was so afraid of that there was no life after death that she decided to become a medium herself, and she decided to do everything herself. And one of the things she did was to go to Lilydale, and she had extraordinary experiences there. So this is something everybody should, as you point out, everybody should learn to do these things, at least enough so you understand they're real.
Yeah, well, this is our Mecca. That's how I look at Lilydale. This is
I love it.
Have to visit there at least once in our lifetime, right?
Oh yeah, well, it's just wonderful that you do go and enjoy it. And frankly, I had forgotten about it, and then I read when I was reading your book and saw how much you loved it, and just it does feel like a magical place the way you write about it. I think I really am going to put it on my list. Go one summer just to have the experience of going and being there.
That's wonderful.
So, what is your new book about?
Well, it's based on my 2016 Fringe Festival experience. My one-woman play. It's called. The title is "What You're a Medium," and
right, with a question mark and an exclamation mark. What?
Now I have to tell you that came straight from Spirit. I said, I wonder what I'm going to call this, and they just echoed that in my ear. I said, that's perfect.
They have a great sense of humor.
Oh,
they do.
my, do they ever. And, yeah. So it's more
talk about the play, though. I mean, what was it about? Somebody who developed mediumship, or what is the play about?
Well, this was the first time ever in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, to have a play like this. And it was basically me teaching people about this work and then giving readings to the audience.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Good for you.
It was really funny because there were only 10 slots for a 90-minute play. And they called number 10, and it was my name. I jumped out of my seat and screamed and ran out of the room. I was so shocked.
Oh,
but
wow.
I thought, you know what? Spirit wants me to do it. I will do it. So I put my head to it, my thoughts to it, and Spirit helped me. And that's what it was 9 shows of teaching people about mediumship, especially the myths. Oh, my gosh, there's so many of them.
I know.
Oh.
Well, the thing is, people want to believe, but they're terrified that if they try to believe, they'll be disappointed, and maybe there is no life after death. That's the great fear. I'm afraid to study it because what if it's not real? And so I tell everybody, as you probably do too, as loud as we can, it's the most real thing you could possibly imagine. It's much more real than what's around you now. It's real. And so the fun you can have in this lifetime just studying it, exploring being a medium, or going to good mediums, and going to Lilydale, and going to sit with a physical medium at some point, and just learning yourself how to communicate with your own guides, because to me that's a whole other area which we have not explored nearly enough. But there is so much you can do with your life to enrich it, because all of this really is entirely real.
Well, Roberta, I've been doing this close to 40 years now. It better be real.
Right. That's true. And I've been doing it my whole life too. So, yes, it took me about a decade to convince myself it was real. And after that, it's been Katie bar the door. I mean, this is the most fun anybody can have, to be doing this work and to be teaching people what's true. What's next for you? You're writing a book now.
Yes.
Where do you think you're going with this? Because you're pretty young still, so that you have a lot of things still to do.
Oh, honey, I'm much older than I look. I'm telling you. I'm not giving that up, though. I'm not telling you.
I'm happy to talk about how old I am. The older I get, I have a friend who says, well, one day closer every morning. That's sort of how I feel at this point. I mean, because, we all know where we're going. No, I was turned 73 this year.
Congratulations.
And I feel as if I'm just getting started.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Well, I'll tell you the next thing. My vision is with this documentary that I get to show it in various venues and film festivals and have a Q&A after so that we can talk. Because my whole reason for being here on the planet is not necessarily giving messages. I do that. That's part of the situation, but it's education.
Yes.
So that's where I feel I'm going next. And I'll tell you, the magical things that have happened. I mean, I was talking to a gal. We were working on grants, for the movie. And I'm sitting here at my computer because I'm on with her on Zoom. And all of a sudden, this curtain of white, sparkly stuff comes waltzing into my room. I stopped the conversation. And I said, I can't believe what I've just seen. And I told her, and she said, got goosebumps. And I said, me too. I don't see stuff like that. But when I know I'm on point, Spirit makes it completely and utterly real for me. So that's where I'm going with this, Roberta. And I do hope that I meet a lot of like-minded people like you. This has been just such a gift just to talk with you about it.
Aren't you sweet? Well, I love talking with you because the thing about doing this work, everyone, is that there are so many good people in this field who are working so hard to get the truth to you. Because when you understand that your life really is eternal, it's impossible for you ever to end. You never began, you never will end. I say that every time we talk. But when you really get what that means, there's nothing in your life that is not going to be transformed for the better. The fact, what Carolyn is trying to do is to help people understand you really can think in an eternal frame because you are eternal. And there's no way that that's not true. That's what I'm trying. She and I are basically doing the same shtick. We're trying to help. However, each person will listen a little bit differently and will need probably evidence in a slightly different way. But once you really get this, it changes everything. And when enough people on earth understand that life really is eternal, it's impossible to die, there'll be no more wars, there'll be no more anger or hatred or any of the things that we decry now. The solution to all of humanity's problems is what Spirit is trying to do now, which is to roll out to everybody the fact that, hey, this is not just a one-act play. This is an eternal, eternal life.
Yes.
And so thank you for what you're doing. I mean, it's a gift to the world, what you're doing.
Well, that's very kind. Thank you. Yeah.
So what do you want people to take? We're almost at the end of our time. I know it goes very fast.
Oh, my gosh.
But what would you like people to take away from just hearing you?
Be very, I'm big about psychic scams, I have to tell you. I want your listeners to be very careful and discerning about who they choose. Know that you are in control of your life and that a psychic or a medium mostly a psychic is there to give you signposts and you decide whether or not you want to take it or go a different route. The mediums are there to support you, touching in with your loved ones. I'm very hesitant with mediumship at times because I find that I am not a psychologist, right? And I'm not a grief counselor. And I want people to understand that I'm only one tiny part of the solution to just working with their grief and their loss. So be very careful about that. Don't get caught up with, leaning on a medium when you can do it yourself. And if you really would like to touch in with your family, meditate. Your loved ones will reach out to you when you're quiet. And that's very difficult at this time. We're very busy people. And we don't know.
The TV's always on. Yes.
Yeah, we don't know how to sit still. And if you can sit still, be quiet, and focus on what you want to reach out to, who you want to reach out to, after a while, it will happen. Now, don't say, oh, my gosh, this is unbelievable. I can't believe it's happening. Just accept what you receive.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, no, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for being here. We'll have to do this again.
I would love that. Thank you, Roberta.
Everybody, this has been Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes, and I'm really glad you could be with us today. This has been fun. Please never forget that you are a powerful, eternal being. You never began, you never will end. And when you really get what that means, your whole life is going to be energized with joy. Our guest next week will be Dr. Scott Taylor. He's the president and executive director of the Monroe Institute. This is another great place, Carolyn.
No kidding.
A wonderful place and wonderful people. The Monroe Institute is the legacy of the great 20th century astral voyager Robert Monroe. And if you haven't yet read his books, those should go to the top of the list right now. They're Journeys Out of the Body, Far Journeys, and Ultimate Journey. I read them when they came out in the 90s, and I have to tell you, I still live in those books. You must read them. And I think one of the things that, astral travel is not necessarily my shtick, but you learn a lot from someone like Dr. Monroe, who was so fearless in what he did. And Scott Taylor has been a trainer for the Monroe Institute for 50 years now. No, I think it's only 30 years. 30 years, I made him older than he is. He's an expert in the use of binaural, I can't say this word, beat technology. They use this for getting into a state of being able to astral travel. And he's the author and voice of 6 best-selling CDs of guided meditations on near-death experiences. It is Into the Light series. He's an expert on near-death experiences as well. He's served 2 stints on the board of the International Association for Near-Death Studies, that's IANS, and he serves as a moderator for some of their international conventions. So this fellow is a heavyweight and has been for some time in this community, and he's going to come, and I should have done this years ago, he's going to talk to us about Bob Monroe and the Monroe Institute and what they do. And I think some people who will hear him will say, okay, that's what I've been looking for, a way to expand my consciousness in a setting of people who really know how to help me do it right. This week we've been talking with the lovely Canadian medium Carolyn Molnar, whose book, His Compassionate Messenger, it's really a light account of Carolyn's experience as a medium, and it's a fun account. As I say, I became quite engrossed in it. She's had 30 years, more than 30 years, close to 40 years of experience. As a working and teaching medium, she helps clients worldwide. She teaches classes on mediumship and psychic development. She's led workshops in Canada and at the wonderful Lilydale, which she talked about so warmly. Her website is carolynmolnar.com, and I'll put that in the notes too. She's one of the few precious, really, really good, genuine mediums whose work is helping to pave the way toward our next stage of human understanding, when everybody will understand the truth of what actually is going on. I look forward to that so much. Now, as you know, my nonfiction books are Liberating Jesus, My Thomas, The Fun of Dying, The Fun of Staying in Touch, The Fun of Growing Forever, The Fun of Living Together, and soon, I promise, The Fun of Loving Jesus, Embracing the Christianity that Jesus taught. For young children, there's The Fun of Meeting Jesus, and also we're soon to publish The Fun of Growing with Jesus, which is about the death of a dog and how Jesus helps children with that. You can order all my books through bookstores or on Amazon, and the adult books are also, of course, available as audiobooks. If you ever want to talk to me about anything, about any of my books, or if you have questions, I get emails now every day through robertagrimes.com, and I answer them as fast as I can. It can take a few days sometimes when I get a lot of them, but they're very precious to me because your questions help me understand what you're thinking about and keep me on my toes, and I love it when I'm able to answer questions. But when people are bothered by something, I want to take away the fear and replace it with joy. Yes, your pets are all fine. Yes, your loved ones love you. There's so much. I get some interesting questions too, frankly. You really keep me on my toes sometimes. Just make sure you give me your email address, because then I can be sure to get back to you about it. Past episodes of Seek Reality are available on webtalkradio.net, realrevolutionradio.com, iTunes, iHeartRadio, and a number of other stations. They're all over the place now, including those in the wonderful Dream Vision 7 radio family. And many people now tell me that all they do is just, they got the Seek Reality app in the iTunes store, and it's free, and now it's apparently, I've never seen one. I don't know what's going on with it, but apparently the new episodes just show up there, so I think that's a lot of fun, and certainly it's easier than going and looking for episodes. I want you to be able to listen on your time and whenever you're ready. So if you ever wonder about whether I'm still doing this, I think I'll do it probably forevermore until, when I stop doing it, you'll notice in the flowers. If you ever wonder about where we are now, just go to the robertagrimes.com website and click on the radio tab, and you'll learn there where we are, what we're doing, and how to contact me. If you enjoy these weekly conversations, remember that there's a new blog post each week on robertagrimes.com, and we have some wonderful, very lively, I must say, discussions about all the things that people are interested in on my blog. So try that out too. My job and my joy is helping you understand that your own life really is a perfect, wonderful creation of God. Your own life is unique, precious, rare. I don't care what you think you've done so far. You have not even begun to do wonderful things, and I want to help you do them. Meanwhile, this has been Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Please enjoy and please make the most of this coming week in our one reality, knowing that you in particular are a powerful, eternal being, and you, most of all, are infinitely loved.
You've been listening to Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Roberta blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Join us every week as we explore what the afterlife evidence and modern science combine to tell us is true about the one reality we all share. Knowing the truth changes everything.